Welcome to Building the Muscle of the Higher Self. We invite you to enter the realm of your higher consciousness with Rien, Dr. Sandy Island's higher self. Dr. Sandy Islands holds bachelor's and master's degrees in speech pathology, a master's degree in counseling and psychology, and a PhD in hypnotherapy. She began her professional career as a speech therapist, working with children and stroke and head trauma patients. She opened a private practice in psychotherapy in 1985. In 1992, she became a licensed energy guide. Rien is channeled forward through Dr. Islands, creating greater access to psychic abilities and spirituality. When Rien is forward, Dr. Islands is aware of what is being said, and Rien has access to her 20 years of therapeutic experience. Dr. Islands believes we all have a higher consciousness that we can tap into. On side one of this tape, we will call Rien forward to discuss building the muscle of the higher self. Rien, please come forward.
Hello.
Hello.
We are Rien.
Hello, Rien.
It's very good to be speaking with you today. And thank you for assisting us with this very magical technological process. So we are just taking a few moments to settle in. We are called Rien, which in French means nothing, and everything comes from nothing and everything goes to nothing. So nothing can be a very powerful state, although oftentimes many humans do not consider nothing a powerful state. For when someone asks you, what are you doing? And you are embarrassed at times to say, oh, nothing. But really nothing can be a very relaxing, non-stressful state to be. We consider ourselves Sandy, Dr. Sandy Island's higher self, and she took many years of training in order to bring us forward. And we would just like to say that all of you out there listening have higher selves as well. And you can contact and experience your higher self in this way, like we are doing, or there are many other ways to do it, which you may already be practicing. So we will be blowing some wind at times, because one of our jobs as all the different energies from the spiritual plane that are operating down here on the human plane is to clear burdens. So when we are speaking with individuals or groups, we experience people's burdens on an energy level. We take those burdens in and then we release them. What we hope will happen in your participation with us is that you will just relax and experience, whether your mind is following what we are saying or not, the fact that your higher self and your highest energy will come forward, and blocks and burdens that are stopping you from being your highest potential in life will be released and removed. And this process is for anyone, no matter what your religious beliefs are, because all is one and one is all. And when we refer to the highest source of the universe, we will often refer to it as the energy, because we really experience all of life as different forms of energy and different frequencies of energy. And it's so important if you would like to experience that which is an energy source greater than yourself, to be called God or any religious connotation, that you can experience a relationship with a higher source of energy, that which is bigger than your mind or your personality or your ego, as psychology refers to the self.
Rien, can you explain further how to contact your higher source?
We are speaking to even those people who at this time may call themselves atheists or agnostics, because perhaps they have been a bit traumatized in their life in a religious sense, or they have had tragedies happen that have allowed them to cope by saying, well, I'm just not going to believe in God. But we would like to invite everybody listening to get in touch with a higher source. Now, that higher source might be the wind. It might be that which creates hurricanes, tornadoes, or unbelievable mountains. It might be that which creates the coral reefs. Anything that you have experienced in your life that just creates wonder and inspires a feeling of elevation, those tingles that come on your arms and legs when you have contacted something that lifts you higher than where you operate regularly. So we would like to just invite everybody listening, and there's nothing you have to do, to just be open to experiencing a higher source of energy than that which is created within your own personal body, because it is already there. Your highest self and your highest energy is already there with you, and it is connected to that which creates all that is in the universe. And your belief is not required for this conversation to work for you in whatever way you would like to change your life. Because if you are listening to this tape, the chances are that you are looking for change in your life, and you feel stuck in places where you just haven't been able to move forward. Just like we have moved forward in Dr. Sandy Island's body and invited her mind and personality to step back, although she is quite present, by us touching your highest self, your ability to literally channel your highest self, then you can remove blocks and burdens and patterns in your energy where you feel stuck without really any mental effort whatsoever. Because it is as if you have, what would it be like? An umbilical cord from your highest self to that which creates all that is, which is the highest source in the universe. And we invite you to find a name for that source, something that works for you. And you may find that that name changes as you change. And we invite you to accept that in your life. You may have noticed that we always speak in we's, because highest selves and energy and spirit do not have eyes, the ones that are the letter I from the alphabet. They have eyes for sure, eyes that allow you to see at levels in your life that you have never seen before. Magical levels, levels that seers and monks and writers and enlightened ones see, You have those eyes within you, in your highest self. So we are inviting that highest self to come forward. And as your belief is not required, your mind may be saying, this is a lot of mumbo jumbo, because we just like to keep the mind a bit confused. And then what will happen is one day you will just be out in your regular life, and you will begin to see with new eyes and hear with new ears, because that particular block where you have only been looking out of a very narrow perspective, like a little laser beam, will now be open like a beautiful flowing river. As we said, your highest self is connected with an invisible cord, like an umbilical cord, to the highest source. And that highest source is always giving you information that you may or may not hear. An example that we love to use is you are coming to a crossroad. And at the crossroad, your highest self, your energy, the highest source in the universe, nudges you and says, go left. Then your mind, and that which you know, comes in and says, well, really, you should go right, because right is the right way. And Bill, George, Sue, and Don all go right. Your parents have always gone right. So, go right. And in that instance, you do what is familiar and you go right. Then you find yourself crashing into a brick wall, and when you are seated on the ground with little cartoon characters swimming around your head, you hear just a little bit louder the voice of your highest self saying, go left. Remember, we invited you to go left. So, a learning has occurred, and you move on, and then you will come to that crossroad again. And this time you will hear the voice of your highest self, the voice of spirit, saying, hey, want to go left? And this time, with no rationale, no reason, and no prior historical evidence, you will choose to go left. And all of a sudden, magic happens. And your life works in a way that you could have never imagined if you sat and really thought about the results of taking that crossroad. And then what that does is create a level of faith, and you are really saying then to your highest self, thank you very much. And then you will begin to hear it a little bit louder, for it is always speaking to you, and always speaks to you for your highest good, does not direct you towards any bad. Now, there is always choice and there is always free will, and part of the process of learning to hear that highest self is not listening. And in the not listening, you learn to listen. Would you like to tell us a little of your experience in coming to know a higher source in your life?
Well, yes, Rien. I recently, well, actually, as of the last year and a half, have been really trying to listen to my higher self. And the difficult thing in the beginning was overcoming the fear and having the accumulated confidence in trusting that the higher self was what it was, because I think that we learn so much about, as you said, going to the right and going to the right and going to the right because everyone else is going there, that we condition ourselves to follow something and not listen to our inner voice. And looking back after having the knowledge of of learning about the higher self. Looking back, I remember my higher self was always talking to me, but I was not listening. And now I'm really listening.
That's beautiful. And could you tell us areas of your life now looking back that you were listening and that you allowed your highest self to guide you towards places where you have been very creative and successful?
Well, probably with people, just asking my higher self, people that I wanted to have enrich my life, if they would, to help me to determine which of those people would do that, and now my higher self, as far as my career is concerned, is leading me to a place that I have wanted to go my whole life, and finally can go. And there's still many things, though, that I am searching for. And so I feel like I'm just at the very beginning of really listening and exploring my higher self.
And I think many other people listening can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But for those of you who are confused as to, well, wonder if I've ever experienced my highest self in my life, can't think of any times, can't remember, we would just like to invite you to look at times where you experienced they are called, we think, déjà vu, where all of a sudden you just had extrasensory perception about things. Or without any planning at all, you were guided unknowingly towards a place in your work, in your relationship, in your life that just worked out magically. You didn't expect it. All of the planning that you did, you were guided a totally different way, and yet the result was magical. Times where you've heard yourself say, that was a miracle that happened. I have no idea how that worked. That was an amazing coincidence. When you hear yourself say, that was an amazing coincidence, know that your highest self was operating you. So really what we are saying is that the connection is there. It is nothing that you have to do to make it happen. And you can also be aware of the connection so that you can be a person that does the footwork. Because the thing about your highest self is that when it is guiding you and you are not listening and following the voice of mind or personality or history, the highest self does not come out with a ankle and trip you up. It does not lasso you and say, get back over here and follow us. It just invites you to, by all means, you would like to follow mind? Go for it. And in that experience, as we described before, you then may hear, well, there was another voice speaking to me. And then out of faith, out of lack of reason, you will find yourself following that other voice, just for the heck of it sometimes. And then the faith becomes stronger as the results become more magical and successful. And we are speaking in somewhat vague terms, but what we are speaking about relates to your relationships, your work, your finances. Every aspect of your life can be touched and guided by your highest self. And then your mind will get a rest because minds are very, very tired now. In this age of highest technological advancement, which we will also throw in, that some of the most successful computer geniuses, etc., are guided by their highest self. They may not know it, and they may not admit it. But the highest self has been operating with all of the miraculous advances technologically and scientifically. And we will find that many scientists may not even agree, may not even want to acknowledge the possibility that spirit is operating in their life. And that's okay, because highest self and spirit does not have an ego, and it doesn't have to be validated. It will still operate towards your highest good.
Get in touch with your higher self more when you are in a dream state as you're going to sleep at night?
Well, that is one way, because you also have, in psychology it is called the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind. So that is a level of your mind that is operating out of conscious awareness. Because the conscious mind that you use on a daily basis is really only 10% of your brain potential. So the other 90% encompasses the unconscious mind and the higher conscious. Dreams are one way. You may find when you are exercising and your mind really stops thinking that inspirations come to you. Meditation, just going within and quieting the mind, is a way to hear your highest self. And really, as you practice some of these techniques, many of you out there that attend 12-step programs, that is a way to encourage hearing your highest self. And perhaps even some of your spiritual or religious practices will encourage that. And the more practice that you do to build the muscle of hearing the highest self, then the more you hear it in your daily life, when typically only your conscious mind is operating. And as you hear and trust that highest self, what begins to happen is self-healing. And those particular habits that you do in your life that are not healthy for you begin to drop away automatically and effortlessly. So in some of our private sessions, people will say, well, I would like to quit smoking. And we will say, well, smoke, 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 smoke. Because you don't want to resist that which you love doing right now. And if you want to shift the experience, just keep practicing, contacting, hearing your higher self, and building that muscle. Keep doing your habit without resistance, and eventually you will just let go of it, because it won't work for you anymore. Spirit operates very, very simply. Red light, green light. Doesn't work, works. And where do you hear the messages of your highest self? Usually through your feelings and through your body. So, naturally, as you begin to clear up things that are unhealthy for your body, then you are creating a more sacred vehicle for you to hear your highest self and allow it to operate in your life. But for those of you out there that have tried to quit habits on your own unsuccessfully, tried to lose weight, etc., this is where the practice of contacting and building the muscle of the highest self will assist you. This is where 12-step programs, which have been inspired, guided, and channeled by the highest source of the universe, are so successful in people letting go of habits that aren't working for them. Because for all intents and purposes, it just looks like a bunch of people with a particular habit show up, sit in a room and talk, telling their stories. And then they are able to stay away from their habit. Now, how does this work? It's pretty magical. Well, there is a set of steps that were divinely inspired. And one of the reasons why the 12-step programs work so well is because no one really has figured out how they work. But they do. And oftentimes that is the truth of spirit, that it just works. You can't figure it out. You can't analyze it. You can't break it down into its cellular, molecular parts. It's just something that works and heals. And this is not new information. This is information that is coming to all of you from everywhere. Miraculous healing stories. But we are speaking directly to you, the special you that is listening. The you that is filled with history and patterns, blocks and burdens, and yet also carries the greatest resource that you can ever have for your own healing, your highest self, and that connection to that which creates all that is. And what a huge, amazing universe we have, with incredible sources of energy and healing available, all being pumped through that connection to you and your highest self.
I think it's great that you got onto the subject of healing, Rien, because that was going to be my next question, is how can we use the higher self to heal? And you touched on many, many different aspects, especially when we have our so-called creature habits that we go to for comfort. And if we are working on our higher self, the more we work on that, the more we realize that these other habits just are not going to do it for us anymore.
And you know, it is really, there's a realization there, but it is so amazing, because what happens is you want a particular substance, and it is very, very comfortable for you, and it does comfort you. So in all the mental efforts to resist that substance, I will never do that again. And then you go back to doing it. And you enjoy it when you get back to doing it. And then perhaps it becomes out of control. So it is like a roller coaster where there is the thrill as you are climbing up to the top of the roller coaster. And there is a high when you get to the top. But then as it crests that hill and starts heading down, that's when the lump or your stomach moves up into your throat until you hit the bottom. The bottom is usually filled with fear and shame and guilt. I am a terrible person. I guess I'll always have to use this substance. And then you will, and then a time will come when you will, okay, I'm never going to use this substance. And this becomes an endless vicious circle. Never, always, never, always. The magic of the 12-step program is that it's just one day at a time. And when it comes to, for example, food, it is not as if you can set aside food and say, well, I'm letting it go. But what happens in the body is that as you get in touch with that highest self, and that highest self which is pumping into you that which creates your highest good, and it is inspiring, without your mental effort, the desire in your body to be the healthiest it can be. Not that number on the scale, but let's just say firm and fit. So now you are inspired to exercise, even when you don't want to. And then from the exercise, you begin to feel better. And then you find yourself craving less those foods that are unhealthy, or as you continue to eat them, because you never want to resist them, you find that they are making you sick now, and you are getting stomach aches, etc. And little by little, you will approach that food one day, and you just will not be able to have it. You may even want to have it, but no, it's a red light. Stop. Don't want it. And that's usually how the letting go process happens in spirit. Not focusing on the substance, but focusing on making the connection, building the muscle of your highest self, and following those instructions which guide you and your body to become the most sacred temple for not only your highest self, but your mind, your personality, and all of those other invisible aspects that are operating in you. Because have any neuroscientists found the mind yet? Where it is exactly located? Oh yes, they can probe and find, well, this is the thinking center, this is the feeling center. But the actual big picture of the mind and all of its indescribable components. And where exactly does spirit stay in the body? Have the biochemists found that spot yet? Magical.
It's interesting that we're talking about this because I recently saw a television program about a woman that had a heart and lung transplant, and after she recovered, she started craving unusual things that she never craved before, and she had the experience of meeting the donor's family, who described the person who formerly had her heart and lungs, and these new cravings and these new experiences that she was having were things that were very familiar to the donor. And there was a discussion about cellular memory, which means that the spirit would really be contained in all of our cells, but then we would actually really be connected to each other, which is all the connection that I would imagine of the higher self as well.
Exactly. There is no separation. There is absolutely no prejudice, which of course is based in fear anyway. So when you are not operating in a state of fear, you are in faith. And there is just infinite possibilities. Yes, not only do you have your invisible cord connecting your highest self to that which creates all that is. But everybody on the planet has one too. So it is a unbelievable network of spirit all joined together. And now technology has created the internet, which is allowing humans to actually contact each other in seconds from all over the world. Some say it is divinely inspired. Yes, there is spirit present in everything, and spirit present in nothing. Many of you have heard of Deepak Chopra, and he speaks a lot of the space of nothing. That if you melted down the human body and measured what was the space of nothing versus what was substance, you would be amazed to find that that space of nothing was so much greater than the space of substance. Again, a magical thought that doesn't make sense. And that's what you will find as you begin to hear and follow spirit and your highest self, that it may not make sense. Because inquiring minds always want to know, and they always want to make sense. As you become more aware, usually starting with having feelings and thoughts about those feelings, and then you change. But what we would like to say in conclusion of this conversation today, which we just send the highest blessing to all that are listening, and we say this in a conclusion of any particular sessions that we have. Think nothing of it. Goodbye.
This is the end of Side 1. You can continue on to Side 2 for the guided meditation with Dr. Sandy Islands.